So as I mentioned in my intro video, I'm a US citizen now, together with a UK citizen. That's all because I married an American, moved there in my 30s, lived there for 18 years, and then came back to be with my dear older mum. And now I'm thinking of doing a U-turn. But for those of you who don't know as much as I do, or need to learn something about the US before you make that big decision, here's a few things that came into my mind to share with you. Now, it's very important that please comment in the comments below if you have any ideas, any corrections, any additions to what I'm saying, and I'd be glad to hear from you, very glad. My channel is all about people. What you think, what you feel, please let me know. But anyway, I'd like to share with you a little bit of my benefit of my experience, because I have lived there for long term in both countries as well. Of course, I grew up in England. Here we go. So first of all, the weather. If you don't like high humidity and high heat most of the year, unless you're in very northern parts of the United States, you're going to have some quite hot sun going on. So if that bothers you or if that concerns you, then that's something to really consider. So if you don't like the idea of that, then give it some thought, because the humidity over there is pretty high most of the time. I don't know why, but my Apple weather indicates that we have a higher humidity here in England than over there, and that doesn't make sense to me. So if anyone can put light on that, I'd be glad to hear about that. But generally, the humidity is extremely high, especially in the south. So, and if you like opening your front door during those warmer summer months all the way through from about May to November, if you enjoy that, if you don't mind staying in most of the day or at your workplace in the AC until it cools off for a walk, fine. But anyway, the weather is a huge thing. Of course, tornadoes, hurricanes, that's all another video really, my experiences of those. But extreme weather conditions, of course in England, coming from the UK to USA, which is my perspective on things. Obviously, if you're coming from another part of the world thinking of moving to the USA from somewhere else that has more extreme weather, might not be so different. But from England to the USA, definitely different. Okay, so next one, there is a faster pace in the US, so that covers customer service, it covers how people speak, it covers, the drive-through mentality, which is, obviously born in the USA, but not my favorite subject, drive-throughs. My family knows that I'm not too keen on drive-throughs, but they're very extremely beneficial and convenient as well. So by the way, I have some really dear, wonderful American friends who I'm still very much in contact with. I love the USA for many things. I have deep regard for their country, and it's my country in a sense that I'm a US citizen now. But this video isn't in any way meant to be negative about my dear American peeps across the pond. So please just view it like a little tip thing, where I'm giving you the benefit of my experience and my view on things. So these are the things that we do need to consider if you're moving to the USA. Accents, that might sound like a no-brainer, but in USA, just as there are in England and the UK, we have a lot of different accents, but the Deep South accent is what I'm referring to in my experience. It can take a while. It can take a while to understand and follow them and appreciate what they're saying and how they're saying it. The local colloquialisms. Tell me in the comments if that's the wrong way to say it. But anyway, accents is a major thing really. If you're adaptable, and that's the key, I think, to any major move like this. you would probably be okay if you're willing to adapt your own language. For a long, long time, I was a little bit stubborn when I first moved there. I moved over in 2004 with my American husband. We had a family there, and I would not use the word garbage. I was very staunchly British in my mindset at that point, and no, it's not garbage, it's rubbish, please. And I taught my children that. I taught them, please take the rubbish out. And there are numerous other words that I'm sure nowadays people hear a lot about, that kind of thing, comparing American and English words. But when I went over there, it was just really quite new. It was, that change in wording and vocab, for me anyway. So you have to be adaptable, and you have to be willing to go ahead and use their words. Oftentimes, please, can you tell me where the ladies are, or the loos? Oh, you mean the bathroom? So I think we really need to honour that country by at least understanding that they say bathroom and we say ladies or toilet or loo. So different countries, we need to be prepared to adapt to that country. But if you're not willing to do that, that might be another something that could bother you in the long haul. So living without things like fish and chips and clotted cream. It sounds really wildly petty. It sounds small, but in the long run, when you are moving from, say, the UK, especially if you've grown up here, if you're English, Scottish, Welsh, or Northern Ireland, you are used to these things. You're used to being able to go and buy fish and chips if you have the money, because it's quite expensive now, about 10, isn't it? 10 to 11 pounds a pop. But yeah, it's a treat, but it's a really nice thing to be able to buy fish and chips, and the real ones. So there are numerous places over there now in the south, where I was anyway, where they were doing an extremely good job of emulating fish and chips. There probably was a demand for it from the expats over there, or just Americans wanting to be British sometimes. So they do a good job on that, but it's still not quite the same. So that particular taste, I don't know whether it's the oil or what, but it's a very definite British taste. So clotted cream, baked beans, things like that. Some of these things you can get in the international aisles, but clotted cream, no. It's one of those forbidden products because it's fresh and unpasteurized or whatever. So can't buy that. But if you're prepared to just, change your palate and put up with not having certain things, that's fine. So if you are prepared to do that and it wouldn't bother you majorly, great. Medical bills are very subjective, because you could be in the position where you go over to the United States on a work visa, maybe, and you're offered that in your benefit package. So that would be fine. And also other types of work where you may be offered help with your medical bills, but usually people have to buy their own health insurance if they haven't got that, unless they're on a very, very extremely low income, and then there is help, but most people don't fall into that bracket. So you end up paying something for your medical cover. Some people, I've heard from some people recently, that when you add it up carefully, you can almost say that you don't spend too much more than with your NI contributions. But I really haven't looked into that, so I really can't comment too much. But I do know that having a baby over there can be very expensive if you haven't got that provision for the delivery and the midwifery and all the services. So over here, of course, in Britain, Brits are used to having that pretty much immediate free service, even though it's not so immediate with some things, I've heard. So anyway, what else? So really, when you go and live over there in the States, you have to be prepared to have a car. So most people, or some people, let's say, over here have cars in England, and it's a more of a given with people working and so on, but over in the States it's an absolute necessity, really. I mean, they don't have public transport is not established, it's not a thing, it's just totally not a thing. And unless you live in the one of the big cities there, where they might have their subways, running trains, buses, or whatever, but usually in normal everyday, most of the life across the United States, no, you can't rely on having a train or a bus. They do have long distance greyhounds where you could book, say, like a coach trip would be, or say possibly there might be a few trains around in different areas of the United States, but not as a thing, not as a normal thing. They're usually freight trains that take ages and ages to trundle on by on the crossing. I've seen that so many times. I always remember the first time that I saw that when I first moved to the US, and I was like a child just waiting for this long freight train to go past with all its numerous carriages. No people, of course. Okay, so there's a few things that I think you need to consider. Don't move there if you can't handle those, if you don't think that you can deal with them. So I'll leave you with this last one. Roaches, alligators, snakes, okay, and fire ants. Alligators. Well, alligators are quite prolific in the south. They're indigenous, I think is the right word to say there. And I have some very funny experiences with, not directly and personally, I'm glad to say, but yeah, they actually have, it's so normal over there to talk about alligators walking around. Not that they walk around on the streets, I don't want to give that picture, but if you just look up a few YouTube videos, you can see what I mean. It's much more prevalent, it's much more accepted that they live there, and like the Everglades and in all the lakes and things. So they're protected, they're basically protected, and they don't want to be killing them unless they really need to. And to be fair to the alligators, they really don't go after us unless they're antagonized. This is my opinion anyway. I know you could easily look up things and see people being chased by them or attacked, but I would say that's a rarity. I would say it's a rarity. Normally, if it was a case of people being chased down by alligators on their way to work each morning, that would hit the headline. So it's more of a rarity over there. So, but it is something that you need to consider if you really have a big fear of that. Roaches, yeah, unfortunately in the south, they're another thing that are there to stay. They take a bit of getting used to. I must admit that is a plus for England, because when I sit around or go and sit on the grass outside or go upstairs to bedrooms, I don't have to worry about, is there a roach in this bed? Shall I shake up my duvet and check? Because I know that they don't live here. I know that they're not, usually anyway, they're not usually around in people's houses. Anyway, that's enough for now. There's quite a few things I could mention, quite a few more different ones from another video, but thank you all for watching.